Hey, Dickheads, Richard here. I just wanted to release a little bonus episode where we interview Jody Plauché, the young man who was taken by Jeff Doucet for 10 days. We did an episode about his dad, how he killed Jeffrey in the Baton Rouge airport while he stood in front of a payphone and shot him on the news right in front of the cameras. It was real fun to meet Jody, and we're gonna have to have him on as a guest on a different episode. So I don't want to give away too much. I want you guys to listen, have a good time. There's parts of the audio that were kind of crappy. I was having a bad internet day. Sorry, guys. It was like the worst day for it, but it happened. I made it sound the best I could, and hopefully you guys enjoy. And if you guys have time and you like listening, you have a good time listening to the show, please just go give us some ratings and reviews. That would be very nice of you. Help us get a little bit more visibility and a couple more listeners. And tell everyone you know if you like. It's fun. I like doing this, and I want this thing just to grow and get more and more dickheads for us to entertain and talk to. So without further ado, here's RJ and I interviewing Jody Plauché.
An elite team of private detectives.
What if balloons are aliens? Maybe that's the key component we're missing.
Cover-ups.
John's guilty.
Mysteries that need to be solved.
Maybe Mormons need mountains.
Richard, shut up.
I also have cats. I have one that's 17 years old. His name is Smoking Man, or CJB Spender. I don't know if you're an X-Files fan, Jody.
No,
No,
I don't think I've ever seen an episode of the X-Files.
well, it's the bad guy in the X-Files. But now he's got like a big, like, I think it's cancer growing on his eye, and it's a big like ball thing. Yeah, he's getting super old, but it doesn't affect him. He still kills. That cat 2 years ago brought me a crow. Like, crows are gigantic. Like, as if that cat could kill a crow. You know what I mean? But he just brought it right to the doorstep. I don't know. I love cats. They're awesome creatures.
They're serial killers, is what they are.
For sure. I watched a whole documentary about cats, how they affect an entire ecosystem when they're brought into it. They'll like kill off everything. And they just like dominate the entire area. They'll kill anything smaller than them. They're crazy. Cats are crazy.
I really like cats on paper, but like I'm definitely a dog person because like they just come so easily to like love you, and like I already feel like I work hard enough in everyday life to be liked. I don't need that like from my animal when I come home, like earn their affection.
Poor RJ.
For those, since we were just started recording, before we came on the air, I was telling about how this kitten showed up in my backyard, and it was wild, and I had to tame it. Well, I have an 8.5-year-old female cat who follows me around, sits on my lap every night, watches TV with me. I've been dealing with her for about a month. She's just like, don't. She'll sit next to me and she'll look away. And if I go to pet her, she can't resist it. But I mean, she's really been giving me an attitude, and that's just kind of how cats are.
That's honestly what cats are. I saw you post that on Facebook. I was like, my goodness, the cat got mad at him. I wonder why. Now I know the mystery's over. It's awesome.
She smells some other.
Yeah, today we have Jody Plauché. Like, did you like our description of how to say your last name in the episode?
I had a friend of mine. I don't know whether I posted it or whether he just heard it, but he goes, "Yeah, they were calling you Plauché on this podcast I listened to." And for the record, it is Plauché, not Plauché. Plauché.
Plauché.
Gotcha.
That's awesome. So Jody Plauché is here. We just did the episode about his dad a couple episodes ago. And his dad was the guy who shot Jody's abuser in the airport and on live television. Was that live television actually, or was it just recorded and played later?
Okay, that is a absolute good question, because so many people say, "Oh, all right." People were watching the news live when it aired, but the news camera wasn't coming and gonna do a live report from the airport of Jeff that's being returned. He got in around 9:08. The shooting program director could watch it to decide what they were going to put on the air. So no, it was not being recorded live, but it aired live on the 10 o'clock.
I got you. So it was like an hour old, and they made the decision to plop it on there. Okay, so yeah, we watched the video in the episode. We went through the whole story. And it's awesome that Jody was actually friends with Tyler Allen, who was actually just a guest on the show a couple episodes before that, who's a fellow Canadian to me, and he loved the show. And then he told me that as soon as we dropped the episode, he sent me an email saying, I'm friends with Jody. And I said, no way, send me his email. And that's how we got together. And Jody was nice enough to come on and let us ask him a couple questions.
Yeah, it's great to see Tyler's success because the first episode they did was about my dad. The very first episode was about my dad.
Very first and second, I believe he did a two-parter, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And now Tyler's one of the bigger names in true crime. So it's awesome that you helped shoot him up to that level. So that's awesome. And that must have been 2017, before pandemic, before you had your book out.
Yeah, I believe so.
If you don't know, we did talk about it in the episode, but Jody wrote a book about his whole ordeal called Why Gary Why, released 2019, I believe.
Yes.
I'm not going to lie, I didn't read it. I listened to it audiobook style, but that was your friend reading it through the audiobook, right?
Yep. My friend Toby Templey.
Yeah, it was really well done. I really appreciated the entire thing. I liked how it was less about your trauma, more about your family and how everyone was supporting you and how your life went. The whole thing. It wasn't just about the 10 days you were kidnapped. That's what I really liked about the thing. It's cool. Thanks for coming on the show.
I like to say it is the best book you will ever read about child rape, kidnapping, and murder.
Yes.
Wow.
I've read so many books about child rape, and you're right. That's the best one. And I'm not even joking. That's the worst part. Oh, man. So I got a couple questions off the top for you that I know you get probably a lot of the same stereotype questions in these kind of interviews, but RJ brought up right off the bat that Jeffrey was your karate instructor. RJ said it's his Hapkido instructor. Is that a real thing? Because I didn't see that anywhere. When you just kept saying karate too. Was it Hapkido?
So yeah, I was wondering, like, it was Hapkido, but I mean, we just said we take Hapkido karate. I mean, I don't know if Hapkido is a separate form that, it's like a punter and a place kicker. It's not the same. You're both kicking a football, but your job is different. So is Hapkido like the name of a martial art versus karate? That's my question.
Well, from what I understand, I looked at it after. It's like North Korean karate's not North Korean, so it is different in a way, I guess. I don't know if they came from the same spot. So yeah, that's interesting. You had them; they're in the same category to you, like they're the same kind of thing to you. Interesting.
I always thought I took karate. I just thought Hapkido was a form of karate, like
Gotcha.
like jujitsu is a martial art. I mean, that's a form of karate to me.
Yeah, you would be the guy to know. Like in your book, you describe your fights when you're in karate. You sounded pretty vicious as a kid. You beat the shit out of some kids.
Well, I had a little anger.
Yeah, I bet you did. I bet you did.
There was this little angry little boy inside of me that was tired.
I bet the way you described kicking that one kid in the face, I was like, wow. Did you ever talk to these guys after you released the book? Like, did they ever...
That was an accident. When I kicked the kid in the face, it was an accident. So you'd wear these little boots, like these padded boots for karate, and you go over your foot or under your foot, and mine had slipped to my heel, and I did a sliding side kick, and when I did, I slipped, and so my leg went higher. I didn't mean to kick him, but my leg went higher and caught him in the eye.
Oh, damn.
But I did look forward to busting Superfoot's ass because I knew he was going to try that shit with me. I was like, all right, come on. I was sitting there waiting. I was just going to sit there and just side kick his ass. And that's exactly what happened.
You're awesome. You're hilarious. I love that part of the book. It's so awesome. It's so like vengeance of a child. I love it. It's so good. Since that you went to school to LSU, you're wearing an LSU shirt right now. Were you a big Angel Reese fan this year?
The year before was even better. I pull for LSU pretty much in everything. But to me, I don't like the LSU fans. I think they're assholes. And so to me, it's almost more entertaining when LSU loses because I'll go to this message board called Tiger Droppings. And we always joke that the perfect football season for an LSU fan is for LSU to go undefeated, win the national championship, and then fire their coach after.
I'm a sports guy. I'm not a big sport. I like basketball only, so I don't watch the college stuff really, except for. But I love that you have such a hate for the fans. I have such a loathing for certain fans. Like Boston fans can suck a bag.
And I think it was 2010. LSU beat Tennessee to go 6-0. Okay, mind you, we won the national championship in 07, and we're 6-0 starting out 2010. And a legitimate LSU fan called the sports talk radio and said, "How can we get rid of Les Miles if he keeps winning?"
That's fantastic.
When Tom Rinaldi came to my house to interview me for the ESPN E60, which you can find on YouTube, called A Time to Kill, the first question he asked me when he got out of the car was, why don't LSU fans like Les Miles? And my answer was the same reason boxing fans didn't like Larry Holmes. He followed the greatest.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're a sports guy. I'm glad you're watching the basketball too. That makes me happy. And you went to that school and what did you get degrees in?
I got a bachelor's degree of general studies. Well, so I got a bachelor's of general studies. And what general studies is, instead of having a major and a minor, you just have 3 minors. So I got minors in speech communication, philosophy, and psychology.
Oh, that's cool.
And then you flip that into a career working like in violence prevention since about 1995 until like now. You're still doing that kind of stuff. You're still doing talks and.
I did a presentation for Sexual Assault Awareness Month last week. I went to the state capitol and I got recognized by the work I do. I'm on the board for the Louisiana Foundation Against Sexual Assault, and I'm advisory for this organization called Tent Makers. Now, I don't speak out and do the speaking engagements as much. It's not that I don't want to, as I got to be invited. For example, every year for the last 3 years, or 4 years, I've messaged to people at CrimeCom, and I think I would do good at CrimeCom, and they just never got back to me. I guess people want to sit there and listen to Henry Lee. Come on now.
That's insane to me that the CrimeCon doesn't want that they're just not getting back to you. That's nuts to me. You would be highly, highly attended, in my opinion.
I think so too.
Well, also like purely just based on an importance of subject matter level, like because like as opposed to like in contrast, like whoever they do have booked and whatever the fuck they're talking about, like your information is actually helpful to people. So yeah, that's wild.
I'm with you, but so I'll never do CrimeCon unless they call me.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe the call's around the corner.
I do have business partners that we met before the pandemic. Then I signed the contracts as a pandemic, but we're trying to pitch it as a 3-part documentary series. So they pitched it to Netflix a couple weeks ago, so we're waiting to hear back from them. So if ever it gets to be a 3-part documentary series and it comes out on Netflix, then CrimeCon will be begging for me.
That's when you put an extra 0 behind what you were going to charge to begin with.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, sorry, I kind of lost a bit of that when you're saying. So you guys pitched your story as a 3-part Netflix series?
As a 3-part documentary series, hoping Netflix picks it up.
That's crazy. I hope that goes through, and I hope you get to tell the way you told it in your book versus what 95% of like true crime podcasts report you as. Because like like I said in the beginning of the episode, I heard the story, but it was just guy shoots child molester at airport. Yay, everyone. I never heard the whole start to end, how it all happened before. I thought it was a Canadian case, so I hope you get to say the whole thing. So I do. Well, it's true. I hope the whole story gets to go out at some point.
It will. Let me just say this. It will address what I left out.
That's perfect. So yeah, so what I have here is you've been a sexual assault counselor, prevention educator, serving on the executive board for Men Against Violence, organized and facilitated sexual risk reduction programs for students of all ages. So you hit high schools and colleges and stuff like that.
I've spoken at St. Joseph, Stanford, Villanova. I've spoken at a lot of them.
That's amazing. And then, you get to talk about your personal experience and knowledge about working with sexual assault victims. So that's at all sorts of conferences and stuff. I love that this is how you flipped your life into what it is versus how a lot of people could have turned it. You know what I mean? You see a lot of people with chips on their shoulders from being assaulted, and that's not a bad thing. That's but I love how you were, I don't know, the way you describe it's your parents and your family and your support system really was good with you as a kid, and you kind of like got to move past it and try to help people, which
just got back to normal.
And your mom was a big one in that, right? Like your mom's super, like you dedicated your whole book to her, right?
Her and Mike Burnett, he was the police officer that led to recovery. So, that's she gets a lot of the credit.
That's cool. Is she still around? She's still with us?
She's in another room, yeah.
Oh yeah, good.
She's still around.
That's awesome. I feel like that's what their book did really well, is like it made me introduce, like I felt like I knew your family, like your brothers and your sister. And RJ didn't read the book, but RJ's gonna love
and Stormy Daniels.
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna ask about that story, just for RJ's sake, because he didn't read the book. So your sister, Sissy, got in a fight with Stormy Daniels back in the day and beat the shit out of her. Is that a correct story?
Damn.
Well, like she said, I got her pretty good. Not as good as I wanted to because they broke it up pretty quickly. But yeah, my sister grew up with three older brothers, so we taught her how to fight. Yeah, she did got her pretty good. But I like Stormy now because I like how if you go follow her on Twitter, people be like, "Oh, you're a whore," and she's like, "Well, I did get paid to suck dick." Like, I mean, so she's just very brutally honest. So she's kind of fun to follow.
No, that's good. That's hey man, own it. And especially if you're helping bring down Trumpy, I like it. I think it's funny. The whole thing is amazing.
I'll tell you a funny story.
Yeah.
I was at a Howard Stern event, and you can see this on YouTube. It was in Atlantic City, and it was the night before the Evander Holyfield Hasim Rahman fight. It was that Friday morning, and they had a Crazy Cabby versus Stutter and John in a boxing match. So I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, drove down to Atlantic City. It was a big Howard Stern event, and about halfway through the fight, I look across the ring from where I'm sitting, and I see Evander Holyfield. And I noticed the security wasn't paying attention. I said, screw this. So I walked over and I see Evander Holyfield, and I walk up to him and I said, I just want to shake the hand that knocked Mike Tyson out. So he shook my hand, he smiled at me. Well, when I turned around, Donald Trump was sitting like 2 seats over from Evander Holyfield. And so I saw him and so I went, Trump. And at the time, he was a known germaphobe, right? And so I grabbed his hand real quick before he could like fist bump me or whatever. So I made sure I shook hands with him. And so then let's fast forward. Fast forward 20 years, we find out he went raw dogging a Stormy Daniels. He's not a germaphobe, I can assure
you. Oh God, that's amazing. I didn't know that he was supposed to be a germaphobe, but that's hilarious.
I want to shake his hand. I don't hate his time. I don't have a hate now, but for the Americans listening, he's going to be your next president because they're not, in my opinion, they're not elected. They are selected. And I think he was selected the first time. Biden was selected, and then he's going to be selected.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Honestly, I live up here in the far white north. It doesn't affect me, so I just find it funny. Like whatever brings the most chaos makes me laugh the most. But you guys have to deal with actually that. You know what I mean? Like I feel for you.
It's gonna spill over, you moron. Like you think that there's no wall between us.
I live in like the perfect place for that spillover, like the most right wing fucking.
Take a long time for it to get all the way up there.
Where about in Canada?
I'm up in Northern Ontario, Timmins, Ontario. So like if you know where Toronto is, drive 8 more hours north, and that's where I am.
That's where my business partner's entertainment company out of Toronto. They're called Forte Entertainment, so they're going to be working on the project when it gets done.
In Toronto?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you meant Timmins. I was like, crazy. That's such a small world.
No. They're in Toronto. My bad.
Yeah, that's cool. Fucking Jeffrey's made you have like a crazy life. You have, but I mean, this whole ordeal has made you have like you met Donald Trump. You've met fucking Evander Holyfield. I like looking at your TV credits. Like you're on Geraldo a bunch of times. You're on like Maury a couple times. Oprah, Lisa, fucking Real TV, Montel Williams a couple times. John Walsh, which that would have been awesome. I love John Walsh. Connie Chung, you met here's what my real question is from this: who has the biggest difference in online or on TV versus in reality? Like, you know what I mean? Like, who the camera turns on and they're like, it's me, Maury, and then they turn off the camera like, ugh, and they gotta go backstage and like, do we have the DNA results? Like, are they all just the same as they are on TV? Or are they all just kind of
Oprah? Nope, I didn't like Oprah. And I'll tell you why. I have a good reason for it.
Okay.
I had already done Geraldo and Maury, right? And so, and even Lisa Gibbons, I think maybe I did Lisa after Oprah, but me and my dad went out to California around the same time I did Oprah. And went on a Lisa Gibbons show. Maury, Montel, I hadn't been on Montel by the time I went on Oprah. And Geraldo, Lisa, they all came into the green room and introduced themselves, chatted with me for about 10 minutes before we went out to do the show.
Yeah.
Oprah walked by the green room and waved, and that was it. And the other thing is Oprah would shoot for like 2 hours and edit down to an hour. Whereas Geraldo, they might have to edit out like the last final comment because it went a little long. But what you saw on the show is what you experienced in the studio. So I didn't like the fact that Oprah edited because half the shit I saw on Oprah was cut out.
Crazy. See, I know the magic of TV. I get that they do that kind of stuff, but it's just interesting to see that. I'll never be on Oprah. I'll never meet Oprah. You know what I mean? So it's interesting to hear these kind of stories. I like it.
But I've got pictures with Muhammad Ali. I got a picture of Joe Frazier, Larry Holmes. I had a picture with Sugar Ray Leonard, but it didn't come out. So if you go to the boxing matches, you get to meet a lot of people. Like I met MC Hammer at the Bernard Hopkins William Joffrey fight.
That's awesome. Was it like 1995 MC Hammer or like 2015 MC Hammer? Because those are two different MC Hammers.
I can tell you the exact day it was. I'd have to look it up. But when I got home from Atlantic City that night at 6 o'clock in the morning, they had just found Saddam Hussein.
Oh,
so whenever they found Saddam Hussein, that was the night before.
Like early 2000s, I guess. Cool.
Probably
That's awesome.
2022 or 2002, maybe
2002. Yeah.
No, maybe it was 04. We can look that up, but I mean that's when it was.
It's fine.
I got a picture that night with Antonio Tarver.
I don't know who that is. Antonio who? Sorry.
Oh, he's the one that knocked out Roy Jones.
Oh,
Antonio Tarver. He knocked out Roy Jones.
Cool. That's wicked.
Well, a lot of people ended up knocking out Roy Jones eventually.
Near the end, yeah. You're a big boxing guy. You like the boxing matches?
I love going to the boxing matches, especially when you're actually there.
It's cool. I love that you've had this life, and I like I said, I read your book. Your life started off very filled with turmoil. We went through the whole episode. It's your book's informative, sad, surreal, funny. Fuck, I laughed a couple times when you were saying like you're trying to give blood to your dad, and everybody couldn't do it except for you. You're like, am I the only person? The guy who got fucked in the ass as a kid's the only guy that could give blood to him right now. So like I laughed out loud. So it's a must read for everyone.
My mother goes, don't put that in the book. I'm like, that's what happened. I'm telling you exactly what happened. I mean, I'm sitting there, I got a needle in my arm. I'm looking at my little brother. I'm looking at my cousin. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And she's like, oh, I'm anemic. I can't give blood. And my little brother looks at me and goes, I did steroids in high school. They won't let me give blood. I'm like, I got fucked in the ass at 10. I don't want to give him blood. Come on now. But I figured my blood's been tested enough. That's,
Yeah, your blood's the cleanest out of anyone's. They know that for a fact. And that's awesome. I just want to hammer down to the people who are listening to this that this is like a must read for parents, especially because I never would have thought. There's a lot of things that you bring up in your book that I want to talk about a little bit, like how you should talk about child molesters and pedophiles and stuff with your kids, about how not like, okay, one of the main things you're saying is not to tell your kids like, I'd kill that fucking guy if he ever touched you, or I'd kill somebody if they ever touch you, because then you say that kids, and I agree, like I never thought of it this way, that kids will start to think like, if they are touched, I'm not going to tell you because they don't want you to kill someone. You're their parent. They don't want you to go to jail and stuff like that. I don't know if you can expand on that a little bit more, if you have any. I just thought that was a great way to think about it from a parent perspective.
Most of the time, the perpetrator is a trusted adult, family member, parents, best friends, neighbors. And so a lot of times, like with Jeff was fun to be around. He would take us to the movies, to the mall. We'd go to the arcades. He'd give us money. But that's what pedophiles have to do to gain the affection of the child. And now by that time, I'm like, okay, I want Jeff to stop, but I don't want Daddy to kill him. And people ask me, why didn't you ever say anything? It's because I knew my dad would kill him. And that's exactly what happened. I didn't know to what extremes he'd go to.
Yeah, you even say in the book, which I found was interesting, that you didn't say anything either because you didn't want Jeff to know that you are the one who told on him, because you didn't want Jeff to be mad at you, right?
I wasn't trying to protect Jeff. I was trying to protect me. So once the hospital report came back positive, I admitted it. But I wasn't going to admit it because I knew I'd go to the hospital and I knew it was going to come back positive. So I didn't want to, because I figured Jeff probably would have got, a couple months in a psychiatric ward and then got out and then come to me like, oh, you told on me, and then to take it out on me. So I didn't, until he got himself caught, I didn't confess up to it until then.
Yeah, it's a lot of like I'm changing my ways of thinking just because your book, it's really fucking good for parents. Like, so do you think that now as an adult, as a kid, you were like, I just want Jeff to stop because he's a nice guy. But like, do you think that he was obviously he was just a nice guy to try and fucking rape you? You know what I mean? Like he probably wouldn't have been a nice guy otherwise. Was he nice to other people?
No, he wasn't a nice guy. He was a fucking sociopath con man. My friend Chris Doucet, who used to have a podcast on, it's called Criminal Perspectives. I'm sure there are episodes out there if you want to go back and watch them on YouTube. But he did a psychological profile, and he actually used like standards that a criminologist would use or whatever, a profiler would use. And yeah, his profile of Jeff was not good.
Like a psychopath? Is that what it came back? Like pure sociopath?
Like on another level, like sociopath, absolutely.
As an adult, you know that, but as a kid, you were like, I just want him to give me more candy.
I was wanting less candy.
And he never, and this is something I don't think I know the answer to, but I don't know if it's a thought people have. I thought he never tried anything with your brother or your friend that was in karate with you, just you?
I can tell you right now, my little brother was next.
Your little brother was next day, yeah.
Well, and I suspected, but I know there was an older kid, okay, who was a year older than me. He
Yeah.
aged out. Okay, so pedophiles like prepubescent children. This kid was going through puberty, and so Jeff moved to me. Now, once I would have aged out and got pubic hair and been able to ejaculate, and Jeff would have moved on to my little brother. But I'm thinking there were a couple other boys that were part-time side pieces to Jeff because I had my suspicions. He did spend the night at these other kids' houses a few times, so I suspect that he wasn't going to have some new little 9-year-old sleeping next to him and not blow him.
Yeah, because he thought you were like his boyfriend or whatever, right? So he didn't want to like make you cheat, like think you're cheating on him. Because he had that fucking mindset, right? Where you, like you said in the book, where he would get mad at you if you told him you're hanging out with some other people at night or something, right? If you were doing your baseball or your other sports, like why wouldn't you just hang out? Like he had this weird protective. So yeah, I guess he probably would have had somebody else on the side. That's weird. It's so creepy. I'm sorry I had to go through that, man. Like so creepy. Another thing from your book that I really liked, another lesson that people should go read your book. There's plenty in there, but this is another good one with the and my parents do this all the time. And I have to stop my parents now. I started stopping them recently, which is like my kids, I have a 10-year-old daughter or 11-year-old daughter very soon and a 13-year-old son. And certain family members, they'll go up and give big hugs to. Other family members, they'll just go, because they don't know them that well or whatever reason. But my parents are always like, go give your uncle whatever a hug. Don't
Oh,
be
I
like
fucking hate
that.
that shit.
And then my kids feel like, okay, I'm grandma and grandpa tell me I kind of have to. And I always thought that was weird in a way that RJ probably is doing it right now, where it's like, stop forcing the kids to hug. But it's not that. The part that you brought up in the book that I thought was really good was like, they say they don't want to do something. You say, do it anyway. So then the kids start to feel invalidated for their feelings, right? Like whatever they say is not going to matter anyway. So why would I tell you if I'm being abused or anything like that? You're not going to listen. You're just going to tell me to hug the fucking uncle anyway. Did I interpret that correctly in that?
Yeah. The example I started off with in the book is when I would wait tables and I'd go to the table, what can I get for y'all to drink? And the parent would look at the kid and be like, what do you want to drink? And they'd be Coke. And the parent would look at me, bring a milk. Why in the fuck did you just ask him what they wanted?
It's true. It's so true.
Hey, get up and let Uncle Paul sit down. I mean, how many times have you seen someone do that to a kid? Oh, you just big grown-up table. Get up and move over here. Yeah, I mean, you're teaching the children that their opinions are worth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, I think that's part of the reason that, like, I mean, I would assume that, like, because, like, we obviously, without nefarious underpinnings of it or anything, but, like, me and Misty will treat, like, our nieces or my little brothers, like, not as adults, but, like, in a way where it's like, yeah, somebody does try to, like, oh, give so-and-so a kiss. We'll stand there and go, they don't have to do that if they don't want to. That's their body, things like that. And just try and empower them to like make that decision on their own, because there's also like non-touchy or non-sexual touch that like a lot of relatives do, that they don't realize the type of, I mean, like, it's not like on level with the same trauma from like, an actual like abuse or anything, but it sticks with you. It's like, oh, do I not have this bodily autonomy? Do I have to let them touch me in that way? If it's like pinching a nipple or something, or like, like tickling or mussing their hair, anything like that. It's just, that's so violating in other ways. But I would imagine it can also get iffy if, like you talk about like treating kids like an adult. I would assume that is something that predators generally move to as well. Or am I right about that? Or
Well, you mentioned tickling. I mentioned tickling too. It's a way for them to test the kid's boundaries to see how the child is going to respond. If the child's like, "Oh, go get your hands out my lap," "Oh, it was an accident. We were roughhousing." "Oh, yeah, whatever." You test your boundary, asshole. I know what you're doing. So yeah, you're absolutely spot on about that.
Yeah. This is a bunch of stuff here that I wrote down that I want to talk about, but we're fucking going lots of time already. Okay, first of all, this is for RJ's sake. we didn't know. I told him this yesterday, but since we're on air, I'm going to say it anyway. We didn't know what your dad was a salesman for, but we were making fun that he might have been cheese salesman. Like we are just joking around because it didn't really say, but he was a liquor salesman. Your dad was like drinker, right? A big drinker.
Well, he started out as a liquor salesman when he got out of the Air Force. Okay. He got out of the Air Force. He got a job at Baton Rouge Wholesale Liquor, not the best place you want an alcoholic work. And he was a heavy equipment salesman whenever he shot Jeff. And that was what he went on to mainly do was heavy equipment sales.
I gotcha. Okay. So that clears up that one. So then the debate started into we should see the minor attracted people. I was like, okay, first of all, with pedophiles, I don't think they get enough jail time at all in America, Canada, especially. Like my country lets people out for mental health issues are crazy here. Like the guy who, yeah, I don't know if you've heard about that down in Baton Rouge, but the guy that cut the head off the guy in the Greyhound bus, you hear about that? Like in 2000s? Yeah, somebody lobbed someone's head off and they said he had schizophrenia, gave him some pills, and now he's out walking the streets today. And I think it's the same kind of thing with pedophilia here, where you get 2 or 3 years and people don't get enough jail time. And a lot of people say the killing of pedophiles is the only option that we have. And RJ disagrees. I disagree too. I don't think anybody should die. I just think these laws need to be changed for offenders to be more strict. Am I wrong? Like, you deal with this? I'm just a fucking guy. You know what I mean? I work in a mine. I don't know anything. You're an expert on this stuff. Do you think these laws should be more strict for sexual offenders, especially with children?
Yes, 100%. They need to be stricter. But what I found interesting about your discussion is the way we handle minor attracted people. Okay. There are no places in the United States for someone who realizes that they're attracted to minors and that their attraction isn't growing as they get older, it's staying the same. There's no place for them to go and say, look, I don't want to be a pedophile. I don't want to be attracted to minor people. And they don't have any outlet. So their only thing is to keep it hidden. Because I'm sure there are plenty of. All right, so I told you a pedophile is attracted to children before puberty, prepubescent. Okay. You could also be a minor attractive person and be attracted to 14-year-old girls. That's your Orkellies of the world. But even those people, they don't have a place to go. It's either sneak around or go try to be a priest or some type of celibate person, which you're going to probably go 10 years without offending, but then there's going to be some little altar boy that bends over to light a candle. And so, I mean, there's no outlet for someone who's a non-offending pedophile. And so I think we need to address that because what we're doing ain't working.
I agree. Yeah. I think that's where we both landed on that entire thing.
Well, because that's the issue you bring up when you say, like, penalties aren't as strict or whatever. It's like, yeah, sure. I mean, somebody shouldn't get life in jail for selling some crack versus 4 years, for actually raping somebody. I agree with you, but jail doesn't work, period, for doing anything other than keeping people out of society, which if that is the only goal, sure. But all you're going to do is just wait for people to do the thing and then remove them from society. When wouldn't it be better if we stop it from happening in the first place? Is for sure my only point.
No, I agree with that too. And I want to know from Jeff's perspective, like you talk to a lot of people. Do you have guys or women too that are minor attracted people that come to you and say, I don't want to be like this? And like, you must be a good resource for someone like that. Just you specifically. I know there's probably not enough of it, but I mean, do you have guys come up to you like that?
No, that would probably be the last person that would come up to me.
I guess that's true. I guess that's true.
I've had a lot of people come up and be like, I was molested by my uncle or my grandfather. I get that all the time.
Yeah.
Actually, I had some communications with a young lady who's in jail. Her and her boyfriend murdered the guy that sexually abused her from 4 to 14. And she had just got through reading my book. She had her friends send it to her in prison, and she read my book, and she wants to kind of reach out to me. And so we corresponded. I'm about to check my messages to see if she responded back. But yeah, I get that all the time.
So you don't hear it about any maps. Like what? Like our discussion turned to like maybe there should be therapists. Like it's so weird and icky that nobody wants to talk about it. But both of you guys are right where we should be talking about this more. And we should be, if you have a problem like that, there should be people to go to. Is there anything in the field that is like that? Because you're in that field. Like, is there Are there therapists out there that are being like, I will help you get over your attraction to minors?
Well, I don't think I think the people who would be doing that work would understand that they're not going to get over the attraction of the minor because you're attracted to who you're attracted to. I mean, it's like me, someone going, okay, look, I know you think Livy Dunn is attractive, but you can't have sex with her. Just so you know, she's a gymnast here at LSU, and she is like the biggest NCAA female Instagram followers. She's like a millionaire, and she's my type. She is definitely not just my type, a lot of people's type. I mean, little blonde hair, blue eyes, she's beautiful. But if I lived in a world where people would want to kill me for just thinking about having sex with her, that would be tough. So we absolutely like Johns Hopkins has a doctor who I think is looking into it. I think you can find some of her videos on YouTube. It's not coming to my top of my head right now, but she's doing work in it. And I think that's absolutely the direction that we need to go. Because when you arrest someone who molested a child, you know what you have? A molested child. So if we can stop them before they molest the children and seek therapy and alternatives, then we're limiting the children that are being molested. So I'm not defending a pedophile. I'm not taking up for pedophiles, but for non-offending pedophiles, they need to have some type of outlet to understand that, okay, no one likes who you are. Just don't act out on your attractions, and it can be done.
Yeah. So Jody, can I just say this then? Haha, Richard, fuck you, you idiot.
Oh,
Fair enough. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I just think that like we need to prevent for sure. It's really hard. And I like the fact that this is the work you're doing because of Jeff, but you're doing that work like getting the word out to like prevention, which is something that I don't think enough people do overall. So I super appreciate that about your life. Like you spent your whole life doing this stuff, man. It's awesome. How do you see us moving towards making minor attracted people feel comfortable to going to therapy or whatever? Like, how do we do that? Do you have any?
quit people from making memes that say "kill your local pedophile" with my dad's face on it.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty fucking
Yeah.
good place to start.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of because that's what I was talking about, man. It's just that like bloodlust that exists in society for lots of stuff like that. I mean, you kind of like can't simultaneously tolerate that or like silently agree with it, and then also hope that things are just going to get better without any kind of pushback on it. I mean, it's the same thing with I don't have anything against people owning guns, but I do have an issue with a culture that fantasizes about getting to kill people with them. I mean, like it's a tough thing because that's more so than even sex. Violence is what people in especially the US are just drawn to. It's utterly wild. But until I think you can like really like breach that piece of it, I don't know what you do, because you name a thing people have issues with and they want to kill somebody over it.
Yeah,
My
traffic.
best friend had the best description of a gun. He hated guns. Hates them. Made sure I got me a gun. He pressured me into it. Hates guns. But one day he came home to his apartment and some dude was at the wrong apartment, threatened, thinking he was at the one across the hall. But he's like, I had to get a gun just for protection. I've got 2 kids. And he said a gun should be like a spare tire, used only when needed. No one goes around bragging and showing you, hey, come here, let me show you the spare tire I got.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
someone will be quick to, hey, look at this 9mm.
Yeah. Yeah, because all it does is it's just like having a gun in a situation just makes that situation lethal, whether it's you that has it or whether the other person has it. Now it's potentially a lethal situation. So like the idea that having that and potentially ending a life or making something lethal is this like sort of like glorified or romanticized thing is what's like truly fucked up about it, because it should be something you do reluctantly and at all costs.
I'm not a big fan of guns, but if someone were to break in my house, I'm glad I would have one. I'm not still sitting there pulling for someone to break in just so I can have the opportunity to shoot them.
Right.
A lot of people were, I wish someone would try that over here.
Yeah, exactly. And but then that's the thing. I mean, because like you're doing it right. Most people overwhelmingly, I believe, are doing it right. I'm not so pessimistic that I think, the vocal minority is what is, surrounding us at all sides or anything. But at the same time, it's like we have to be able to have the courage to kind of shout down that vocal minority and tell them to sit down and shut the fuck up, because that level, that piece of social leveling where, you ostracize somebody for doing something wrong is missing in a lot of areas in society today. And you can really attribute a lot of that to, I mean, like Jody said, like memes, social media is where people get away with saying some ridiculous shit because they end up suffering no consequences for it, And
For sure.
sometimes they do, but
I just want to say, like, between Jody and RJ having these discussions, that you guys have made me think differently, and I think talking about it in a way that's less, making it a less of an icky thing, more of a like a serious problem, might be a good way to do this. And I like how, I don't know, the podcast is probably going to reach, I don't know, a couple thousand people, that could help someone. I just like that we're doing this because I don't want to kill my local pedophile anymore. Before this,
mhm,
when you started that episode with me, it was like you told me the story and I went, hell yeah. Now I don't think I would do that, So
no.
I think that, I don't know, all this work that's being done by Jody and everybody else in this field is really actually helping out. And I think talking about it's the way to do it. So I compliment both of you for, I don't know, you made me, and I'm just, like I said, I'm some fucking guy in a right-wing town.
I didn't do anything. I'm just a contrarian asshole.
Well, no, you definitely did. You brought the episode to me with the attitude of let's not, and then Jody's the guy out there spreading the word on a mass level. So like I feel differently about it after a couple of hours of conversation. And I think that's where we need to have more conversation. I think you're right. I think we need to have more serious conversation instead of like, fuck those weirdos, which don't get me wrong, fuck those weirdos. But at the same time, let's not make that the focal point of it.
Yeah, I think if everybody can, you know, I mean, not to your own detriment, obviously. Don't ever make yourself uncomfortable or anything, but if you can try on a little bit of like empathy for an area or like a demographic where you don't normally have it, even if it seems completely wrong, like even if it's like, pedophiles, even in my opinion, like I have a very solid distrust of cops, but sometimes you have to think about things in terms from another person's perspective, regardless of whether or not you dislike them. And I think if more people did that, then that's kind of like how we start to sort of mend some of these huge fissures that we have.
Yeah. Do you have kids, Jody? That was the question I wanted to ask. Do you have children?
Nope, just cats.
Just cats. Same
No
thing.
kids, no wife, not gay. Those are usually like the first people. Are you married? No. Do you have kids? No. Are
Hmm.
you gay? No. No, but I will say this: what I said about the non-offending pedophiles and the maps and how you need to get them help before they offend, before when they realize that they're first attracted. I mean, you're going to be like probably 14 years old and realize, okay, I'm attracted to 8-year-olds. Well, before that person offends, you need to start getting them in the right support. Now, I felt that way whenever I published my book, but I did not think that that was the time for the discussion. I didn't want to take away from the actual story. So if I ever do a second book or maybe write a chapter in a book, it might be about that. Because like I said, if you stop
Cool.
someone before they molest, then you don't have a kid that was molested.
Yeah,
And
that
so that's
rocks.
that's what I'm arguing for. I'm not arguing for, oh, let's defend pedophiles. No, I am trying to protect children. That's my goal. And I think that that
Yeah,
would be the best course of action.
Honestly, I think you're doing a great job just by
yeah.
reading, like getting the word out. Like I was saying, Art, like just me talking about this for a couple hours has changed my mind on how I'm going to approach this in the future, especially with my kids. I don't think you having kids or RJ, neither of you guys have kids. I don't think that matters because of the empathy and the way you guys think about things. I just have a more of an emotional response because I have kids that I don't get to think of it in that way. And I'm glad that, like I said, I'm glad that this conversation's happening. I'm glad we're getting to put it out for the rest of the people to hear it. So I hope that you do. I did see you sent me an email where you were trying to talk to that lady, that doctor, about she was talking about minor attracted people and you wanted to help. I hope she gets back to you because I do think you're a good advocate for all this stuff. I think that you have enough recognition within your not only your field, but just like because of your story so wild and I still knew who you were before, like I knew who your dad was before we talked about the episode just because I'm into this true crime stuff. So I think you're a good guy to get this stuff out to everyone, and I'm glad that you're out there doing it.
Yeah, yeah,
I
same.
We both have lots of respect for you, man, and I appreciate that you. Well, I do. I shouldn't speak for RJ. I have like tons of respect for what you do and how you've put it out there for the world. I shouldn't talk
Of
for
course
you.
I have. Of course I have respect for him.
Well, I know, but I
but
don't.
why'd you have to frame it like that? Like I don't. I think the world is lucky to have you as a voice in it.
Yeah, and I
Well,
thank you for doing all the work you're doing, man. Like, thanks a lot for everything.
well, thank you. Let's hopefully this documentary gets picked up by a big company, and I'm able to continue to do this work and spread the word. But I think you're right. I think every parent, every survivor should, or even if you're not, even if you just have brothers and sisters, my book is got a lot of very good information for a lot of different people.
I was right enthralled. I like the whole thing. Why, Gary? Why? Why, Gary? Why? Thanks for being on the show. Unless RJ has some more questions.
I'm good, man. I really appreciate you.
All right. You got anything you want to
I
add?
told you the kitty would make an appearance.
I'm glad. I'm glad you pulled out your pussy.
You hopped
for
right in the
us.
frame.
I just watched Private Dicks and I think RJ's the funniest.
What? Come on.